Stock photos is something that are used by a lot of people. Some are free, some are paid. We'll talk about that. So a stock photo, in case you're wondering, is a photo that's from a photo library. Instead of going to a library for a book, you go to a library for a photo. And it's just called stock because it's on the shelf, basically. There are free or paid ones. They're available. And there are a license to use is also almost always required for that. And it's also something that you might want to consider as is, rather than something that's custom. When you take a photo or you hire a photo photographer, you're actually, doing those things and actually hiring somebody to do something custom, like a company that needs a product photo, or if you're hiring a wedding photographer, those are custom photos. Stock photos, you buy them as they are, or you get them and download them as they are. And there's actually a little bit more than just stock photos. There's stock media. A lot of people in the Video Producers Club and people that have made media probably know there's stock video, there's stock music, there's stock illustrations, but they're basically off-the-shelf type of content because a lot of people that are content creators need that type of material. So why would you use them? Well, if you think about remodeling a kitchen or designing a kitchen, there's a ability to buy stock cabinets. If you go to the local home improvement store, your preference, and you look at the cabinets they have in stock on the shelf, they're one price, but you only have a limited selection. But you can customize them. You can get custom cabinets done, but you're going to pay more for that, obviously, because it's being built just for you. And so stock photos and stock images like cabinetry is less expensive than custom. There are millions and millions of choices. A lot of them are really, really high quality. And the stock photo libraries allow you to search by a topic, a label, a tag, or even the size you might want to. When you use something off the internet or you get something from a stock photo library, you get what's called a license to use the content. And a license grants you permission to use it in some way. And we'll talk about why that's necessary and why that's important to be aware of. The license could give you the ability to use it for personal use, for, say, somebody using it for a school project or something they might want to use just to put on their wall or in their home. Somebody might give you permission to use it with attribution or credit. Somebody might give you permission to use it commercially for business, maybe using it on a banner or logo or an app or a website or in a video. And some licenses give you the ability to adapt and modify, and some licenses give you what's called unrestricted use. Okay, so why are these licenses important? Well, it has to do with a law in the United States, and I'm not an attorney, so I'm not giving you a legal opinion. I'm just giving you a little bit of information I'm aware of. But it basically protects what's called original works of authorship. And authoring is pretty broad. Authoring can be writing, it can be creating, it can be doing a video, it can be drawing something on a napkin in a restaurant. All of those things are considered authorship. Writing a play, composing a song, drawing a picture, making a sculpture. Those are what's considered authorship. And so when it was originally done in the Constitution, when we formed the country, the Constitution gave Congress the power to enact a law about copyright. And at that time, a lot of our founding fathers were authors, and you might recall from history that Benjamin Franklin ran a printing press, he ran a publication. So the Constitution and the founding fathers wanted to give people that created something the right to own that content that they created. It's not just like building a wagon or building a home or something like that. You actually, if you create something and write it, or if you create something and draw it, you actually own it. And that was what they wanted to give people the ability to have, was some legal protection for the work that they created. And in 1978, the copyright law changed a little bit, so you didn't have to actually file anything with the Copyright Office. It's automatic when you create a work, but it is a good idea to put the notice copyright 2020 and your name after something, just so people know that you have it and you own it. And typically what will happen on the internet is that websites and stock photos and other types of things will have a copyright somewhere in the footer, and almost everything is copyrighted, believe it or not. So because it's automatic when the work is created, and so you just have to be aware of that. And that's also true of anything you create as well. So if you do a slide, if you do a Word document, if you do other things, those are all created for you whenever you want to. And the owner has the exclusive rights to reproduce and distribute anything they create. So that means unless you get permission from the owner of it, you can't use it without their permission. That means that it's exclusive, and that's technically what it's set up for. And I'll show you the sites. These are sites, and then my website, I'll show you the articles on these. Now there's a little bit of an exception. It's called fair use. And sometimes you have to criticize something or do research or do teaching or do a news report, and you might have to have some content from something like, say you're writing a movie review and you want to be able to show a segment of the movie, or you're writing a book review and you want to be able to use an excerpt of it. There's some areas where you have what's called fair use, but the uses are for certain types of intent. You're not reproducing it. A good example that I tell students in my classes are books about using Microsoft Word or Microsoft software. There's a lot of books out there where you can buy that aren't published by Microsoft that give you instruction on how to use the Microsoft Word software. And they use screenshots, they use terminology, they tell you step-by-step instructions about things, but they don't actually sell you a copy of Microsoft Word, but they have training instructional material, and that's something that falls under fair use for that type of thing. Or you watch a news report on TV and they're at a shopping mall or something and they show the signs of the stores that are out there. That's considered fair use. So in order for us to protect free speech in the country and still protect people that have copyright of their material, if you're criticizing a restaurant you ate at on Yelp, you have to be able to name where it is you ate. But you can't use things like their logo or other things like that. So it's a little bit of exceptions. You just have to be careful about using it. There's another service out there that you may come across on the internet, and I'll show you some examples. It's a nonprofit service called Creative Commons. And it was created by some people that said, we want something a little bit easier to understand than copyright. And Creative Commons answers the question, what can I do with this work? And it supports copyright law, and it's actually used a lot in Microsoft apps. I'll show you in Microsoft Word an example of how you can find internet photos right from your Word application. And they explain their licenses. And so people that create work can register it for free with Creative Commons, and they can let people say, hey, it's okay for you to use this as long as you give me credit, or what's also known as attribution, from where the work came from. Those are things that are okay to do. So it's a little bit clearer with somebody that might have a Creative Commons license, what it is you can do with their work and how you can use it. There are some paid sources out there for types of content: stock libraries, iStock Photo, Adobe Stock, Big Stock Photo, Shutterstock. Sometimes applications have libraries as well. I use an application from a company called TechSmith that makes an app called Snagit, which I use for screen captures. And they have a very low cost add-on. It's $49 a year that I'm able to use for all the stock photos and stock images and other information. And sometimes you see some email list services that provide add-on services as well. We'll take a look at a few of these so you can understand what they're like. There's a lot of free sources. Obviously, any photo you take yourself is free. There's a search tool in Creative Commons called search.creativecommons.org where you can search for images and photos that are available. Microsoft apps give you the ability to do insert pictures online, and I'll show you that. Other sites, I'll show you Pexels, Pixabay, Unsplash, and even YouTube has a service. It's not for stock photo or video, but they do have a YouTube creator service for stock music because a lot of people like stock music and they're looking for music to add to a soundtrack or other things like that. So these stock photos are beyond just photos sometimes. They go beyond that into stock media. The question comes up a lot, well, what about a photo I find from Google search? If Google puts it up on their website, isn't it, something that I can use? And that's not always true. As I mentioned, the copyright law says as soon as somebody publishes something or creates something, it's their ownership. So when you do a search on Google, we'll take a look at this. It shows results for all types of licenses. And in the lower corner, you can see the arrow. It says that Google says it's got a copyright. This picture of a jaguar, I found it. It's a great one. I actually have taken some online photograph courses from Joel Sartori. He's a great, well-known National Geographic photographer. And sometimes Google will say the image may be subject to copyright, but the advanced search filter allows you to search for photos that are available for commercial or private use. And so be careful of that. And just recognize that someone created that photo. It's their property. Think of it as something they actually own. And Microsoft Word is a application created by Microsoft. And I just started a blank document as I would normally start. And so I have a document. I haven't even saved it or titled it. And I want to move my cursor down to a position. And I want to find a photo from Microsoft that I can use. Well, Microsoft has two really convenient ways you can do that. On the home button here, this is the Microsoft panel. One of the things you can do is do insert and then go to the pictures panel and go to online pictures. And when you go to online pictures, it brings up a side panel and I can search Bing. So if I wanted to find a picture of, let's take a panda bear, and if I do a search, I will find pictures of panda bears and illustrations as well. So I can have this box here. It says it checked off Creative Commons only, or I can let it search everywhere on the internet through Bing. So if this is Creative Commons photos that have a Creative Commons license. So if I want to, I can click on this photo and it'll get inserted into my document just like that, wherever I want it. And of course, I have all the editing tools. This photo does not have any attribution requirements on it. It's an open source photo. Because I have the checkbox for Creative Commons checked off, I'm using it perfectly legally and perfectly with permission. Some of them might not be. So if I have a photo like this, which is probably something that might not be a license, it also gives me the ability to it, but they put a watermark on it to protect their license or image. So by using the insert function and pictures, you can obviously browse photos on your desktop. You can pull up a picture from a file, or you can go online. Microsoft also has on the menu bar above Microsoft, in the menu bar on your computer, they also have an insert function that's possible for you to use with that as well. So that's Word. It's just incredibly easy. If you don't take advantage of that, you might want to do that. Okay, so let me share to a website and show you my web browsers here that I have a lot of tabs open. Now, if you're interested in the articles that are on my website, on bobology.com, you can search for stock photos. They were included in the email newsletter as well. And there's information about stock photos, and I've got links to all of the stock photo services. I've got the free ones listed here as well with links that are convenient to find. And then I've got information on copyright if you want to go into a little more detail than what we covered in the slides. But let's take a look at some of the free stock photo sites here, okay, and see what they have. This is Pexels, Pexels.com. It's a lot of free stuff. Now, the way these sites support themselves is they have free content and they have the ability for you to buy paid content from other services. Lots of times they have a partner with something that they do. So if I wanted to do a search, I was looking for a dinner table the other day, and I can do a search for a dinner table, and it will pull up images that are available from dinner table that I can find. And a lot of these are created by photographers that want to upload their image, and they give you additional search functions as well. But if I wanted to pick this one and say this is good, I can download it. This is a download link, or I can add it, or I can mark it as a favorite. But if I double click it, it brings up more information on it. So I can scan over it. I can go up to the free download function here, and I can choose a size, okay, if I want to. So it indicates also that it's free to use, okay? So it's I don't have to do anything. Now, the way Pixabay and Pexels help support their photographers, the people that contribute, is once you download, if you do a free download, they have an ad that you've got, but they also give you the ability to make a contribution if you want to make a contribution to the person. But Pixabay partners with iStock photos, and so they use it as a way to help lure people in that are looking for free photos, but maybe at some point you want to upgrade and get access to a stock photo library. And there's a lot of advantages and disadvantages to a stock photo library, but they aren't necessarily something you have to worry about if you're just doing something casually. So Pexels is one site. They also have videos as well, a lot of stock videos. So if you're looking for a pre-roll or something that you want to play, they have a tremendous amount of video that you can use. They're short videos. They're typically introductions, but if you want to get a picture of somebody drinking a glass of wine or doing something else, you have the ability to do that on Pixabay and find videos as well. That's one free source. Another free source is Pixabay. And I kept Pixabay open here. When I downloaded this picture that I used in my slideshow, I got a message from Pixabay that says thanks to the image author. You can credit. It says crediting isn't required, but linking back is greatly appreciated, and it allows the image authors to gain exposure. So they give you text that you can put in for credit. But I actually donated and gave him $1 for the picture, and that's considered fair market value for downloading an image. But if you downloaded dozens and dozens and dozens, it could add up over a while. You don't have to, but these are people that are trying to make a little extra money, and so I tend to support them by doing that. Pixabay is searchable as well. So if I wanted to do a search for dinner table and do a search, there's all the Pixabay dinner tables. Now here's the other thing, sponsored images search. It's kind of like an app. If you download an app from the App Store, Google Play or Apple, and the app is free, but they have in-app purchases that are available. A lot of times they'll mix in pictures with these that are paid so that you can get a deal. They're connected with iStock Photo as well. So you can find them. They're completely searchable by photos. I can do illustrations. I can do photos of dinner table. I can do vector graphics. And a vector graphic is a type of graphic image that allows you to enlarge it or reduce it without affecting the resolution of the actual image itself. So sometimes that's used. or I can look for videos if I wanted to see videos of dinner tables. And so these are just videos that are available. Now, these sponsored ones up here are paid, but here's 33 free videos of dinner table. So these are all free videos that you can use, and you can use them anywhere you might want to use them in a production. You can edit them and put titling over them, modify them as well. So there are different types of things. There's also the ability to sort by effects. If you want to get animation or a slow motion, this is an animated video of fruit going into a fruit bowl. Kind of interesting types of things to find. The problem, of course, is that you can get lost searching for all this stuff. There's just so much out there. They're really convenient. Okay, so those are some good free sites. The other ones, let's see, is another one called Unsplash. And Unsplash has a lot of good free dinner photos. Let me see what they have. So if you don't find one on one type of free site, you can go to others and find other photos. And you'll probably find something you're using. A lot of times the authors and the people that upload the photos put a word in there like food or meal or table, or they might have something dinner different that if you wanted to actually show dinner table or something else like that. And again, if you click on the image, it gives you the ability to download it for free right here. And you typically you might get a message that says you need to give your browser permission. And then once it's in your downloads folder on your computer, you can drag it and use it in any document or use that you might want to have for it. So those are three really good free sites. I know some of you know a couple of these already, but those are three of the best ones that are out there that I've seen. Now, I use this software called TechSmith, and they make a video editing software called Camtasia. And when I'm done with this video from Zoom, I'm going to import it into Camtasia and edit it in Camtasia. Camtasia is more of a screen capture editing software for doing instructional media, and so it works really well for me for that purpose. They also make a software called Snagit, which lets you do screen captures, and it's used for creating a lot of instructional media. There are free screen capture tools built into the operating systems. Snagit just gives you the ability to add a lot of annotations and functions to it that you might want to use to point things out to people that are a little bit difficult to do in other types of applications. But Snagit the software itself is about $50 a year for using it, but for just an additional $49, they give you access to what they call Snagit assets. So it's relatively inexpensive, and you'll see compared to some of the paid photo libraries what the issues are. So if I wanted to search for dinner table here, because I pay for this, I may find some things free. I may find some others. And these are all photos that are available that I can use. There are some free assets through Snagit assets, but I'm signed up for premium, and I can look at the new ones. People want new photos. So Joel Sartori, the photographer that I showed you a Jaguar picture from National Geographic, he would go out on assignment and he would take thousands of pictures a day for his assignment, because you can't get the picture unless you do a lot of them. And so a lot of his pictures were good, but National Geographic only bought maybe half a dozen or a dozen of them. So what do you do with all the other thousands of pictures? Well, he uploads them to stock photo libraries where people can buy them and use them from the stock photo libraries. So Snagit has gone out and they've purchased a lot of photos, assets, and other things so that you can download them and use them. So it's another way that within an application, you might find the application has a photo function that's available to it that they offer as a service. Okay, so that's a few ways to get some information. Now, you saw these ads for iStock photos. I used to belong to a couple of paid stock photo libraries, but then I found that the Snagit assets and other things suited my images better, we can search. But let's take a look at the plans to suit every budget, okay? And it may not be your budget, but it's what they call every budget. There's two ways that these stock photo services typically work. One is a credit, where you buy a credit and you can download a photo from their library with a credit. It's kind of like the difference between, if you look at Pexels and Pixabay as a public library that you can use, where iStock and some of these others are like bookstores where you got to buy the book. And so you can buy credits, and sometimes photos are available for a credit, or you can subscribe. You can see that's $70 a month on a yearly plan, prepaid for a year. It's $99 a month for 10 images a month. Now, they're really good images, okay? So Getty Images, which is a well-known photo uh, library on the internet, owns a lot of photos. So if you ever wanted to use a photo, for example, of Albert Einstein, you've got to get it from Getty Images. They own all of the photos of Albert Einstein. It's kind of an interesting library they have. So you have to join and sign in, and then, but you can get illustrations and video as well. So they have a lot of things that are available, like they have curated sets that are things for people. And so a lot of businesses and public agencies and people that want to get good quality photos, sometimes they find that the libraries on the paid photo libraries give them more choice, and it's part of their plan. And so somebody like an ad agency or a website or other things, but they also have 4K stock footage and high definition clips, and lots of times they have audio files too. So you can look at the videos, and the videos are just great. Sometimes the videos are available for different types of content that you can find that give you a tremendous quality of production, that are produced by very high quality people that you can really get to. And they have quality film clips for everyday projects. They know, based on people's purchases and organizations' purchases, what are some popular types of things. Okay, so that's iStock photo, not inexpensive. Adobe stock. Some of you may heard of Adobe. Adobe makes a lot of photo editing tools. I use Adobe Lightroom for my photography. I use Photoshop a little bit. I'm not that good at it. It's a little bit of a learning curve, but Lightroom is really, really good for photographers. And as a subscriber to Adobe services, Adobe gives me a built-in tool to let me upload stock photos. So when I was in Panama City, in Panama City, Panama, not Panama City, Florida, because there's two Panama cities, I took some photos of the skyline. They looked pretty good. I uploaded them to Adobe stock right from within my Lightroom. And that's a way photographers support themselves. But you can see there's a lot of really good photos here. Now, we can buy them individually. So this is all types of things that we can look for. So if I look for stock, or let's go to my search for dinner table, because that's one that we wanted to see. You can see the photos. Sometimes they're a lot more variety. Sometimes you can see they have models of people in them. So if you had to take a picture of somebody and use it publicly, you'd have to get a release from them, unless they, so that you had legal permission to do that. And when Adobe has photographers upload photos to their stock photo site, and all of these do, if you have people in the photo, you have to show them that you have model releases so that you can actually use that photo. Now, if I go to buy this, I haven't done this for a while. What does it say? Okay, 3 standard assets a month, $29.99. Ooh, okay, it rolls over up to 36, kind of like a rollover plan. Or I can get a 1-month trial risk-free for 10 standard assets a month for $29.99 a month. Okay, so I'm not sure what the difference is in plans there, but let's look at the monthly subscription here. Here they go. Okay, the monthly subscription, 10 standard assets a month. Well, the reason they say standard is because some of these assets might be premium. So it says, do you want video? Video is going to be more than a standard asset. A standard asset is like a photo. So if you want video, you might have to pay extra for it. You get credit packs. So, but $30 a month is probably one of the better prices for these images. And sometimes they give you the images in different things. So they can show you a high definition 4K video, 8 to 20 credits each. So they're premium, but things like templates for designs, models, lights, materials, photos, vectors, illustrations, premium images, different types of things. So you can use credits for content you can't get with the plan. It gets complicated after a while, which is, I think, why Pexels and Pixabay and Unsplash have become so popular. People that really need them for a business, for training, for other things, they do subscribe to these plans as well. So there's a couple of others things here that I wanted to show you. This is a Google search. So if we look for Google and I do like the jaguar animal and I do a search for that, it'll bring up photos. That'll bring up a lot of things. I'm on the all function here, but if I go to images, it'll just bring up images. Oh, these look like great images. I really like this one here, up here. I want to look at that. So if I click on this, and it happens to be Joel Sartori again, I can see that this image has a copyright, which means I can't use it legally unless I get permission from Joel Sartori to do it. But it might be available for purchase on a download site. Well, that isn't any fun. Okay, so how in the world do I go about doing this? Well, I would go to the tools in Google and I'd go to, I'm not sure if it's settings or tools. Let's see if we go to tools. There we go. In tools, I bring up something called size, color, and usage rights. And if I click on usage rights, it gives me the ability to filter. The filter can be not filtered by license, which means I'm going to get copyrighted stuff that I can't use. Others may say labeled for reuse with modification. And that means that I can modify it. Some I can reuse as is, some I can reuse and modify, some I can use for non-commercial use. Well, if I'm using it in a school project or just something for my club or community and I'm not selling it or using it in any revenue generating approach, that's okay to use. And then I can use for non-commercial reuse as well. So some of them don't really give you a lot of ability to use it. But let's see if I wanted to find labeled for reuse with modification. That's the biggest apps. So some of these are public. So you see here Pixabay comes up. Some things from Wikipedia show up that are open source types of images. So you'll find different types of images here that are labeled for reuse with modification. So that's something to be aware of when you look at using a stock photo, a stock image, or anything from stock sites whatsoever. So those are some things that you can learn about. If you want to learn more about copyright, you can go to copyright.gov, and it's a form of protection provided by U.S. law to authors of original works of authorship. And it gives you examples of types of things. So it can be for literary works, it can be for musical works, dramatic works, pantomimes, and a choreographic work, pictorial, graphic, sculptural, motion pictures. You know, the motion pictures always have that copyright notice, sound recordings, and architectural. And these are categories they say they're viewed broadly. So computer programs are actually copyrighted, and compilations can be registered as literary works, a map or a technical drawing. So there's just all types of work. And the idea is that the copyright provides the owner with the exclusive right to reproduce the work, prepare derivative works, distribute copies, perform the work publicly, display it publicly. And so it does things. So copyright doesn't protect things like ideas or works that aren't in a fixed tangible form, titles, names or short phrases, symbols or designs, things like a stop sign is not copyrighted, for example, variations, listings, or other things. So it's a really good thing to be aware of. And people that are doing things that are creating content really do it. Fair use is a little more involved, and so you want to be careful, particularly when there's a reason why people do not have pictures of Disney characters on their websites other than at Disney.com. And the reason is that Disney protects its copyright. They actually have a team of people that and notifications, and they work with people like Google Search and others to make sure that their intellectual property is protected by copyright, because that's really, when you think of it, a lot of the company's value is their intellectual property, their characters, their illustrations, their drawings, their music, their videos. That's what they make, and that's what they make money from when they do that. And so fair use, however, gives the ability to do things. And here's where I got this from: criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. They're just examples, okay, of activities that may qualify as fair use. And they typically have four considerations to go into that. So if it's for commercial use or if it's nonprofit educational, it all has to do with court cases and our legal system and the type of attorney that protects and deals with copyrights as an intellectual property attorney. There's also patent attorneys, and patents are used for things like processes, how things are made, and trademarks are used for specific name rights and things like that, like the Toyota name, or when Apple wanted to use the Apple logo alone, and they actually worked a deal out with the Beatles to work out the Apple Music logo issue that the Beatles owned, because they were publishing on Apple for a while. So I just wanted to cover a little bit about stock photos, give you an awareness of some really good free sites that are out there. There's probably more that I don't know about, but whether you're looking for photos, music, audio, other types of videos, illustrations, artwork, there's a lot of things out there that are available. Just make sure that anything you use and you create, you want to make sure that you have ownership for it. And all you really have to do is publish and put notice on it, says copyright 2020 and your name. And that puts notice on it that that work is protected. It doesn't mean that if you don't put it on there, it's not protected. It still is. It's just that that notice helps you make people aware that you don't want them reproducing it in any way without your permission. So I hope this has helped you find a few stock photos, and thank you for experimenting with me on the webinar approach. I still haven't decided how to use it, when to use it, if to use it, but I wanted to give it a try and see if it's a function. If some of you are interested in getting a little more hands-on and seeing the controls from a control function, send me an email, and if there's enough people that are interested, I'll set up a time and a date where we can share my whole screen and you can see what the controls look like from a webinar standpoint if you're curious about that. So Miriam, let's take a look at a couple of questions here we have from people in the Q&A panel.
Yes, we have a question from Linda Gorman.
Okay, Linda, let's see. Yes, what we're looking at is that it says, is it true you don't need permission when using photo from US government publications? I used to think that was true all the time, but it's not. Sometimes there are US government publications that are contracted out and paid for by government money, but the owner and the person that created that publication owns the copyright. So you just have to check on the actual publication itself. There are a lot of things, like things in the Library of Congress that are public domain that do not have a copyright. But a lot of documentation and stuff that's done for the government actually still has a copyright on it. So it's just a matter of being careful and being aware of that is, and just looking at, usually there's some kind of a footprint or some information out there that is available for people to see. So the copyright.gov website, we can see there's no copyright information on it. It doesn't say it's copyrighted. So this is something you could copy and use. But other government websites I have seen a copyright notice on. Like I was looking for an example of a license to use in my slide presentation, and I went to the California DMV site and I went to look for a template for a driver's license. Everything on the California DMV site is copyrighted. They have a notice there. So it was something that I couldn't really deal with. Okay, so just a quick wrap up. We covered what stock photos are. We covered why to use them. We covered licensing, copyright, some free sources, some paid sources, some stock media, and some search results.